Martin Brundle believes George Russell has been left a little bruised by Mercedes' high-profile talks with Max Verstappen. The former F1 driver described the four-time race winner as not happy with the situation, suggesting that Toto Wolff's team has managed to inject too many of their own problems into what should be a straightforward driver lineup. Although Wolff has confirmed that Mercedes will stick with Russell and young talent Andrea Kimi Antonelli next season, neither has put pen to paper on their contract extensions. For Brundle, the hold-up, particularly around Russell's deal, feels telling. He pointed to Wolff's ongoing links with Verstappen as a likely reason for the Brits' frustration. And while Verstappen is locked in with Red Bull through 2026, the very fact that Mercedes entertained discussions with him appears to have dented the trust between Russell and the Brackley-based squad. Chatting with Nico Rosberg on Sky Sports F1 ahead of the Italian Grand Prix, Brundle didn't mince words about the situation, accusing Mercedes of creating unnecessary drama for itself. "He's driving so beautifully, George," the 66-year-old said. He just looks the real deal. He's confident. But he said, "I went to Mercedes expecting to win world championships straight away, relatively straightforwardly. And of course, that's just not happening." Rosberg, himself a former Wolff protege, agreed with Brundle before shifting the conversation toward Antonelli, who has had a rough patch in recent outings. "I'll agree with you, Martin, that for me, George is top three, at the very least, in terms of driver this year," Rosberg said. "Phenomenally consistent, so rapid, he is always extracting the maximum from that car. Which is why it's so hard for Antonelli, also because he's up against one of the very, very best out there, which doesn't help." Martin, question to you. Toto is going to have to decide on Antonelli soon. Put pen to paper, sign him up for another year or not. If you were in Toto's shoes, what would you do? But Brundle steered things back to Russell, underlining once again why he thinks Mercedes is making life more difficult than it needs to be. "I'd take him," Brundle replied. "I would have signed George a long time ago, because George is not happy, is he? It's very easy to see that George feels quite bruised about all the Max talk and what have you through the summer. But when you look at the calm of McLaren and other teams, I just think they've injected too many of their own problems into the driver lineup. I'd keep him." But Russell wasn't the only Mercedes driver in the spotlight at Monza. Attention quickly turned to his rookie teammate, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, whose Italian Grand Prix became a talking point for all the wrong reasons. Toto Wolff admitted the 19-year-old made too many mistakes over the weekend, capping off a frustrating outing for the Brackley squad. Antonelli initially crossed the line in 8th, only to be demoted to 9th after a 5-second penalty for forcing Alex Albon wide at turn 3. Meanwhile, Russell salvaged 5th place, though still a hefty 32.881 seconds adrift of Max Verstappen, who once again underlined Red Bull's dominance with a lights-to-flag victory over the McLaren duo of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Wolff lamented what he called a lackluster showing for Mercedes at Monza, with the team unable to match the frontrunners and left clinging to 3rd in the constructors' standings. His disappointment was on full display when he said, "Underwhelming this weekend. Underwhelming. You can't put the car in the gravel bed in FP1 and expect to be there. All of the race was underwhelming. It doesn't change anything in my support and confidence in his future because I believe he's going to be very, very, very good. But today was underwhelming." Referencing Verstappen's dominant drive to service TV, Toto said, "They really need to ask themselves what he's doing differently. Overall, we weren't competitive over the weekend. A 5th and an 8th place are absolutely not satisfactory. I don't think with our current setup, we have a car that we can consistently drive onto the podium." But Kimi made too many mistakes. He simply needs to put together a solid weekend. Then he'll be racing on equal terms with Leclerc and George. And with George, things also weren't completely smooth today. The penalty was just one part of a difficult weekend for Antonelli. A poor getaway at the start left him vulnerable, and his Friday wasn't much better. An off in FP2 triggered a red flag and raised further questions about consistency. Wolff didn't shy away from criticizing his young driver's move on Albon, telling Sky Sports Germany, "I think that was simply unnecessary. Albon was so much faster. You can defend yourself, use your elbows if you have to. Or if you can't defend, then make sure you don't lose time. But that wasn't needed. Even so, there's little question about the Mercedes Junior's raw pace. Since the team switched back to its older suspension setup, Antonelli has looked far more at ease in unlocking the car's performance. But Monza also laid bare the contrast between him and Russell. The Brit remains Mercedes' steady pair of hands, while Antonelli is still very much a project for the future. His race unravelled early when he slipped from 6th to 10th off the line, and his aggressive defending later earned him both a 5-second penalty and a penalty point on his licence. The stewards were blunt in their judgment, branding his driving erratic. The ruling reads, when Albon was in the process of pulling alongside Antonelli at high speed, Antonelli moved to the left and squeezed Albon, who had 2 wheels on the grass. The stewards determined that by doing this, he drove in a manner deemed potentially dangerous to Albon. After the race, Antonelli struck a reflective tone in his interview with Sky Sports. I just went a bit deep with the clutch and got wheel spin straight away and just lost so many places. That compromised the race because I found myself needing to chase. It was not ideal. Even on the mediums I struggled a bit, did a few mistakes, just couldn't really find my rhythm. Still, the teenager was keen to stress the positives he could take from the weekend, saying, definitely the qualifying was a step forward. It's been a bit of a weak point in the past few races. Antonelli admitted that missing out on FP2 running left him on the back foot compared to his rivals, with no chance to rehearse qualifying or long-run pace. It's difficult when you miss a full practice, especially FP2, which is usually quite important. It's where the track is the closest in terms of time and temperature to qualifying. But also for the long run. In FP1 you do long run, but the track usually is quite green, so the degradation is a bit different, while FP2 is more representative. I just didn't do the long run in the most important session. I did a long run in FP3, but it was with soft tyres, which was quite irrelevant. That was penalising, mostly for the race today. He went on to explain that his greatest challenge lay in trusting the rear end of the W16, a weakness that continued to undermine his confidence throughout the weekend. On the mediums, I felt pretty good, to be honest, with the car. On the hards, I struggled with the rear. I had instability in medium-high speed corners. I struggled overall with the rear support. Wolff, meanwhile, hinted that he plans to sit his rookie down for some hard conversations, saying Antonelli's mindset may need a little recalibration. In his post-race roundtable, he said, a clean weekend also means almost not to carry too much trauma of previous mistakes into the next session or the next weekend, because that's luggage. You're not going to attack a corner hard if you've been off there before and finished your session. Or maybe you're not attacking a driver that should not be in your way, like Pierre Gasly, because he had this situation with Leclerc. Kimi shouldn't lose even a second on Gasly. It's just freeing him up. He's a great driver. He's got this unbelievable ability and natural talent. He's a racer. It's all there. Everything is there. But we need to get rid of the ballast of previous races. Did Toto Wolff throw Kimi Antonelli into the fire too early? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Thanks for watching.